Why is knowing your love language important in your marriage? It's even important in your relationship with God and yourself. So we're going to talk about the love languages and how does each person develop a specific love language, because everybody has a different one. Now, there's 5 love languages according to a book that's recently written, but it doesn't mean you have to have all 5. In fact, you're given one and possibly another, but you don't need to have all 5. Although all 5 minister to you on some level, there's usually a top 2 that really impact you. And love languages are about attachment. It's like how you feel loved, how you feel attached, how you feel secure and safe inside of the relationship attachment. And, there's 5. There's gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, and quality time. But, it's like each individual has a different love language, and you and your partner have different ones, and knowing the way that your partner needs to love you and you attach through this type of love and vice versa is pretty important. Because if you're saying I love you, but they speak another language, say Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, whatever, and you're saying I love you in English, they're not going to understand it. And so that's why the love language concept is pretty important, and you got to know your own. There's reasons that you need to learn your own that are different than you and your partner knowing each other's. Okay, so let's talk about you and your partner knowing each other's. If you guys know each other's love languages, it doesn't waste as much energy and time giving in a language that your partner does not receive love in. So if you have a partner that, say, likes the quality time, and say physical touch is part of their secondary love language, and you're constantly giving them words of affirmation, they're going to shake their head and they're going to receive it. Oh, thank you. You're beautiful. Or you hear that from your partner. Or I love the way you look today. Or you did great on that speech. And it kind of goes through one ear and out the other. But when you take the time to really sit down and watch a movie with them, or go somewhere with them that they really want to go, or find an interest that they're interested in, and it's quality to them, they feel really loved. So that's why it's important that you know your partner's love languages, so that you don't waste a lot of time and energy getting disappointed because they didn't really receive what you were trying to give in love. Oftentimes people speak out of their own love languages. So if the person is physical touch and their partner is not a physical touch person, then this person is going to speak out of physical touch. It's going to be very affectionate, very hands-on, but it's not going to mean anything to this partner. In fact, this other partner that's not physical touch is going to almost push it away. So the reason that it's important for both of you guys to know each other's love language is to know where what the other person's trying to speak, and then try not to speak through your love language to another person who's not going to receive it. Knowing their love language, and then if both of you guys know each other's love language, then you're going to try to contribute your energy and your time to ministering to your partner through their love language, not your own. And it decreases a lot of disappointments as well. Now, the reason it's important for you to know your own love language from an interpersonal and spiritual place is because it's the way that you developed the way that you attach during development. And so it's usually what your soul is screaming for inside of development. You're looking for, say, approval from or acceptance from your parent or your family of origin structure. And so, there's a birth order book that talks about different birth orders and the different personalities in the birth orders, and it usually lines up pretty good if you have multiple children. But, so for instance, let's say you have the firstborn child and they're alone inside of the family structure for 3 years before they have a sibling. Well, that firstborn, if they have attentive parents, is going to get a lot of accolades, lots of, yay, you did so good, oh, that's so pretty, or whatever. And so they're going to learn, they're going to develop the need for affirmation, for acceptance, because that's how they learned that they were good, they were worth something. It's through all of the affirmations that were been given to them with their family of origin. And then say the second born comes along, and there's so much attention given to the firstborn. When the second born enters, they've already had 2 or 3 years with parents by themselves. The second born is going to look for where can they get attention, and this position has been taken. Oh, yay, that a boy, good boy, has been taken. So the affirmation thing has been taken. So the second born, with subconsciously, is going to look for ways to get attention from that family structure, and so they might point out when the parent is really spending quality time with just them. Because remember, this firstborn has a lot of quality time. They've had this relationship attachment for many years. And so the secondborn's coming in, scoping it out and saying, where do I get my attention? And so then the secondborn starts having a need for quality time. And so the same parent structure could sit there and give the secondborn the same amount of affirmations as the firstborn, and the secondborn not really receive it, because they developed a different resource for attention. Now, that attachment, that family of origin attachment, developed long term, will eventually go into your primary attachment with God, because that God attachment looks kind of the same way as you develop. If God spends quality time, if God gives me affirmations, if God gives me obviously some kind of touch, obviously it's not physical touch, but some kind of touch from the spirit realm that shows me that he just, gave me a download and touched my heart somehow. It's physical, it feels physical or somatic, then you feel loved. So it even looks like the same kind of development inside of your spiritual attachment. And then you move into a relationship, a primary relationship of attachment, like a marriage, and you're looking for the same thing. Well, that's just development. So it's important that you start to understand that your worth has nothing to do with those type of human attachments. Your worth is how you're getting attention, which is how you develop, comes from your DNA of God and Christ. That's where your worth comes from. And when you restructure that mindset to a paradigm of, I'm attached to God as my Father, my primary source of all things, my worth is found in Him, my obedience is because of Him, and my love attachment with Him, and His provision is in all 5 areas of the love language, then your spiritual attachment will change. You will get more secure. You will not look so much for these 5 love languages inside of your relationship with your partner and B, yourself, and you will start to make it much deeper within you, to resonate deeper in you, where there's more healing in the solid attachment with you and God than the primary attachment with you and your partner, which they can fail all the time. So when you're looking at the 5 love languages, yes, you need to know them. You need to be able to communicate them with one another so that you don't waste time or energy. But at the end of the day, you really need to reconstitute your connection and attachment with God to where you redevelop the structure that is not flawed with human experience, but spiritual in nature, foundational to your own life, and then restructure the rest to where the rest feels like an add-on rather than a need. And that's how you deal with the love languages. I hope that helps today. Check out Suzette the Marriage Warrior on YouTube and Marriage Warrior Institute, as you might want some more tools and training.